Fam, 2026. We got nearly knocked out last year from having a couple of pumps to markets absolutely pulling all the way back. It was quite a frustrating year, but now we're going to 2026. And we've realized that this normal cycle that we've kind of been in, it's not so much the same anymore. And what we're left with this year is our skills, right? Our skills and our faith within the market. And in today's show, I want to speak about what's obviously happened since the last time we have spoken. Where are the charts? Where's Bitcoin at? We started to have a little bounce. Bitcoin's at 92,000. And I want to go through a couple of plays of what we can kind of see over the next couple of weeks. We do have some good signs seeing that RSIs are nice and low, specifically on the weekly. Actually very similar to this phase over here, where it sat here for a couple of weeks. We had a very boring couple of weeks, specifically over December. Probably one of the most boring weeks we've seen in a very long time, okay? And that's because markets oversold, and there's always going to be a system, right? It's the market cycle. Drop, depression, right? And then we kind of start going into disbelief. So what we are getting signs here that the market wants to now have the bulls response, right? Let's see what the bulls can do. The bears have said they say, we have broken some important structure, okay? And now it's time for the bulls to respond. And I always said that let's wait for the bulls to respond, right? If the bulls don't get where we want them to get, we can start offloading some of the long term. But the point here was not to panic sell when the tokens are down 50, 60%. So I want to go through the views of where Bitcoin's at right now, where Bitcoin dominance is at, and specifically alts. We're seeing a little pump at the moment, not a little pump, but nice bounce. And specifically, we're seeing a lot of meme coins waking up as well. Okay, so for me, what has happened now is range is starting to open up. So trading is also going to become a very big part of this specific phase. It's not really just going one direction, but using the volatility to make some cash, right? So I want to go through high time frame. I want to go through trade setups between today and tomorrow, right? Of what are the next trades that I'm looking at possibly taking. I also want to go through the tools that I'm really focused on within January, right? I passed the Bitfunder challenge. I'm going to go through this now in the show. I passed one, right? I passed and I withdrew money, right? So I paid $1,000. I unlocked a 100K account. I took the trade. I made $8,200 profits. When you take profits though, so there's the profit, $8,200. Bitfunder will keep 20%. That's how the game works. But I withdrew $6,600. So that's a little 6x, right? And I only got 2% on the trade in profits, right? So this is also something that I really want to show that helped me preserve a lot of capital, specifically within December. And it actually helped save my butt with one of my accounts, right, was being able to trade it a lot more and actually putting in way less capital. So I want to go through a couple of tools as well. And lastly, I want to go through mindset, right? It's a whole new year. We've got to close the X chapters now, and we've got to focus. And I want to give you guys a nice little update on where we're going mindset-wise. So guys, Happy New Year's to you all. Merry Christmas to you all. I missed you guys. I'm wasting time. Let's go.
I try and help everyone in my space, and this is what I get. I try and fight the devils, but inside I'm just like 𝗨𝗧𝗏𝗏. Welcome to Sheldon Show.
Fam, I can't tell you how nervous I was for this stream. After a few weeks of not doing shows, you kind of get a bit nervous. It feels very weird to be doing a show again. And it just shows that does not matter how many times you kind of practice something, there's always going to be these jitters and these mistakes and all these little things. But once you get through it again, things start to move. And it's very similar to trading as well, right? Sometimes you take a break, you come back, it's all weird, right? And get back in, but things start to flow again. But main story here is missed you guys lots. Hope you had a good period off. I did take a couple of weeks off for the first time in 4 years. Unfortunately, lost one of my close friends to suicide early December. One of the guys that actually is the reason why I joined Banter, right? Between Craig and this person. So that was a very hard hit, but also a time to really kind of reflect on this whole journey. And I just want to say, if you're here today, you're still breathing, you're still moving, let's go for it, right? Things could be worse. Yes, the markets have been a bit tough, but we'll always overcome and always push through. Just be grateful for the air you breathe, the life you hear. And not only am I going to be here this year, continuing to share as much crypto knowledge as possible and to trade more than ever, right? I also just want you to know that I'm here for you, and I'm here for you mentally. And I'm a lot through last year. I showed up when I had a very hard mental year, extremely. But I did try my best to show up as much as I could, right? And I'll continue to do that. That's one promise from me. I'll never quit. I will be up and down at different points, but I will be here. And as long as we keep doing that, guys, we're going to go. Now, with that being said, I do want to speak around a little mental shift of going into this year that I think is quite important. It's two or three basic, very, very big things, right? This market has now gone into uncharted territories. You've got to think of it as us going to the ocean and we kind of don't know where we're at, right? There's no land anywhere. We're in uncharted territories. Previously, we had a navigation system that gave us an idea that every 4 years there was an alt season, there was a Bitcoin run, all these type of things. Last year, we had a Bitcoin run. We never had an altcoin run, which means that when institutions and bigger money has started to come within crypto, it has started to change the game a little bit, right? Now, this doesn't mean that these things don't exist anymore, as in alt seasons and these type of things. And I was one person that was obviously saying alt season, alt season, alt season. And I still believe that very much. But I had to get to the reality of knowing that the timing's very different here, right? So these things are very likely to still happen, but rather focus on tools that can help you in 3 different types of markets and keep focus on building the structures, right? So that if it's a ranging market, you kind of know what to do, right? And that helped me a lot over the last 2-3 months because I finally admitted to myself that this market ain't going to recover quickly, right? So then trading became a very big priority for me, and I actually became profitable, right? Not my long-term accounts, but when it came to my trades, I managed to pay my entire lifestyle. I managed to get a lot happening because I accepted the fact that we broke this certain trend. Market's now going to range. I'm going into plan B, and plan B is trade with a small amount of cash, be a little bit more active, don't hold the trades for too long, okay? And use this phase to build as much liquidity and capital as possible, right? So when you start to realize that we uncharted territories, now no one knows the recipe anymore, which I actually think is going to simplify the process, right? When this is the expectation that an alt season is going to happen, what tends to happen then is we tend to get so into that alt season narrative, we kind of forget, right? At the end of the day, this is just a game and it's just trading and it's money moving around, right? We kind of become so sure that this one specific thing is going to happen. We forget to improve the rest of the game, right? Now that we're in this uncharted territory, I'm literally trying to simplify the process mentally and saying I have an A, B, and C mode, right? A mode is when majority of my cash is moving and I got to switch into that mentality of being an investor and not holding things for too long and learning from these type of things. Then there's times where, okay, markets are not moving high time frame. I'm shifting and I'm trading more. And remember, when we're in phase A, I don't have to trade much because the market's moving on high time frames, right? So I'm making money, right? When it's phase B, right, I need to be a little bit more active. When it's phase C, it means this market is trying to do everything it can to take your money, right? Jump to safety, okay? And then I realized, I'm like, why am I trading with $10,000 when I can buy 10 Bitfunded packages and trade with 1,000 at a time and actually have so much more money than what I got when I passed the things? So instead, and I'll show you guys here, I literally had to spend 3 accounts here. Let me just see, I don't share any information here. I had to spend 3 accounts to learn, right? So let's go in here. Failed. Okay, so let's go through the failed accounts. Let's always go through the wins, right? I had to use these accounts over here to learn, and I did it throughout the whole of December. I was like, okay, so let's really understand what the system is, okay, where it kind of closes and how it works and what type of trades, what type of coins, right? And all to the top 2 here, which is, no, it's all 3 of them actually, right? I lost on Zcash, okay? I then switched to ETH, okay, and I won, right? So I open up this account. Let it just load up. Okay, under this trader section, I open up the 100K account, okay, that I can then trade with a 5X. I meant to trade $500,000 here, okay? But because I knew that this market is kind of in this place and I need to protect cash a bit more, didn't mean that I didn't want to make cash. I just found a way. What is the simplest way for me to not lose a lot of money, but have a lot of money to win when the market starts to move in my favor, right? And it made me realize that, oh, I can either trade with my $20,000 or $10,000, or I can learn the game. So when I learned the game, I had to go through a couple of failures, and I was like, okay, trade slower tokens, okay? Traded very simple strategy, pass the level, go. Then I took the trade, right? And then obviously got my first successful trade, which was good, $8,200. It was in one day, just one little catch of, I think it was ETH or SOL that moved nicely, okay? Cashed the money out, okay? And now gave me ability to go buy 3 or 4 packages, right? So one kind of turned into me having more. Plus, remember, this package is still alive, right? So I'm still sitting with the original package. Then I was like, okay, cool. Now I went and I looked at my 𝗏𝗏𝗀 and 𝗏𝗏𝗏, right? The accounts that I've been trading. And those took quite a hit throughout the last couple of weeks. Why? They just got stopped out all the time, right? And I was busy with the family, and I was swimming with the kids, and then I'd come, I get stopped out. And then I don't have time to chart, so I enter again, I put another stop loss. And I was so busy, and I was getting stopped, and I thought it was fine, that I then looked in 3 weeks later, and I'm like, Sheldon, they've given away like 50% of the accounts, right? Because you've just been stopped. Why are you trading so much when you are busy, right? And that's when all these type of things come through. But what I'm trying to say here is us going to an uncharted territory gives you an opportunity to no longer follow or think that something's going to happen a certain way. It gives an opportunity to build 3 different strategies and structures within yourself, right? There's times where the long term is moving, and there's a certain piece that you need to pay attention to. Like right now, if you look at getting into crypto as an investor for the next 5 to 10 years, you're sitting on a very good opportunity to accumulate tokens at these levels, right? Specifically high-end tokens, blue chip tokens. Okay, but is it at any point now to sell or make money long term? Not right now, right? Therefore, I can either sit and say, oh, but there is going to be an Altcoin type of thing, or I can just know that right now you are just accumulating. You're not thinking about sales. Okay, so then automatically in my brain, I'm like, I ain't going to make money here, right? But in the long term, I'm going to make money. So here is my money. This is what it is. This is what sits there. No problem. Now it's like, okay, I need to now focus on this to now make money right now and these type of things, right? And it just makes it a lot more simpler. So I know it's been hard to digest what the hell happened to crypto in the last year, okay? But for me, I think it's always about bringing it back to basics, okay? And now I'm sitting on 3 different versions of myself, and that's amazing, okay? Now I just kind of flip and move and shift, right? The next few things, just 3 quick things. Focus on your energy this year. Things that keep you up, right? Focus on your knowledge, right? Try just keep getting smarter and smarter and smarter. And I don't mean just learning new strategies, right? If you look at your trading journey and you're like, where am I really good and bad at? I'm pretty sure a lot of you can make money, but I'm pretty sure many don't know how to manage money, right? Or manage risk. That's the perfect book you pick up. It's a perfect podcast you watch. How to manage risk better. Mentally, right? These are things that you can do right now that will play a very big part of your success in the long term, okay? And just be part community and make sure that you're around the surroundings that's going to keep you in the game. That's it, okay? Now let's jump into a couple of charts. Guys, get the likes up, get the vibes going. I am back. Again, just to say from my side, first time in 4 years, took December off. I needed it. I needed to go realize why I'm fighting so hard for. I need to be with my kids. I needed to be with my wife. A lot of those relationships took a lot of strain over the last couple of months. And obviously losing a very close friend of mine, it's actually the second person lost last year to suicide, just made me realize why we're doing this, right? There's a lot. Yeah, so from me, I'm back in action, but just giving a little thought of where I've been. Okay, so let's go through a couple of things. High time frame. Like I said, I do think we are in accumulation periods. I do think that this is great long term, you know, times to kind of DCA into the markets. I also think that it ain't going to be that quick that it recovers, right? I do think there's going to be a bit of time, okay? This may change. Again, we are now in uncharted territory. So anything can happen at any point. What we need to pay attention to is what are critical areas, right? Critical areas for buys, critical areas for if we get here and don't get through it, we sell or we take some profits on the long term or just start saving some cash in the long term. Or we break this level, that is all a trap and Bitcoin is going for all-time highs, right? kind of just got to have three very simple views of the market right now. But the first big thing we've got to pay attention to here, okay, is we did have a lot of sell pressure, specifically from September all the way down to December. A lot of selling pressure, okay, got us to break some sort of structure. At the end of the day, got Bitcoin to go from 125,000 down to the 80,000. You zoom out, you've got to realize that it's not an unhealthy chart, right? It's still a strong chart, okay, but it has been, when you zoom in, it's been one of the hardest times ever. Probably the hardest times to stay in crypto, hardest times to understand it, right, and to see if there's any strength here, specifically with altcoins, okay? But the big thing to know now, okay, is we have basically seen the bears come through. We've seen multiple weeks to months of bears controlling the markets. Now it's time for the bulls to put in their response. Once the bulls put in their response, we'll have a little bit of a clearer view of the picture to know that, is this going to be a ranging 2026? Okay, or is this 2026 maybe the run we've been waiting for? Maybe it waited one more year to flush everyone out of the market. I don't know if you've seen, not many exist in crypto anymore. Again, that's a perfect time for a rally to begin. So you need to keep that in mind. This market is in uncharted territories, but this market needs to still stay healthy, right? Which means it's still going to have to give money to the market at some point. Otherwise, stuff just goes to zero, right? So crypto has been taking, flushing people out. Don't be surprised when we're at the lowest of people in crypto that we do see a very fast rally, okay? And I saw it here specifically on the chart of, let's say, PEPE. I just want to zoom in here and just show you, right? The moment that we just get to this point of no interest at all, right? Something just happens out of nowhere, and look at that. All right, boom. You just start to see this like rally up. Now remember, if you have liquidity decreasing, volumes decreasing everywhere, right? You don't need as much buying power to move the market or to get the big moves as what you needed previously, right? Because there's not much liquidity in the markets. Therefore, $100 million as an example being bought here, right, versus where was that up there? Versus that being bought over here as an example, right? The $100 million will move it this much, okay? But over here, it will move it that much, 3 times the size. Okay, so what that just means is, don't be surprised at any point if there is just this big wake up. And the important thing here is to make sure that you're not kind of looking for buys then, right? Specifically on your long term. Trades, no problem. This is moving now. I'm happy the range is there. I'm going to look for my next entry. But specifically long term, specifically more of your longer view strategies, maybe your leverage, your bots, whatever it may be. You kind of want to try to catch this before it happens. It just shows how fast things can spark up. Right, now let's get back here to Bitcoin. So here's my views on Bitcoin at the moment. It's actually not looking too bad. We're at 93,000. Okay, so let's go here. Cool, and let's go over here. So I want to explain this quickly of where we're at. So firstly, we do have this trend, and I just want you guys to put this trend in because I think it's an important trend. It's a trend that's starting up over here. Because remember, you have a lot of trend lines and things like that. The key is what's the strongest one? Right, and for me, the strongest one is always the most touches, because we want to understand, why did Bitcoin bounce specifically over here? Okay, I look at where's the trend, and I see a 1, 2, 3, 4 touches. You can see the 4 yellow circles over here. That for me is what's giving me this trend of where we're currently holding. And that's a trend for me just to have an understanding that if we ever lose that, I got to be open to a Bitcoin going 60,000. Right? And if we're ever going to go to 60,000, I need to know the emergency line for that to happen, right? Because I want to do something with that information, okay? Maybe freeing off some cash, maybe shorting, maybe getting ready for buys at that specific area. So this is a very important trend that's currently holding. Now, where the problems came within crypto and why we went into this depression phase over the last couple of weeks was we had this previous trend, the one that I said was very important for us to keep going, right? And this might be the trend telling us that the temporary high of Bitcoin might be in. And maybe we do want to go through a couple of months of choppiness, and maybe next year we want to rally up, right? So we got to keep that in mind, okay? But you could see this over here. We lost that trend. When we lost that trend, RSIs came down. Now what we're getting ready for is for us to go retest that trend, okay? And there's going to be 2 plays here. This is where it's going to get quite interesting. We're going to soon know in the next couple of weeks, was this fake or was it real, right? Because a lot of the times, fake happened before rallies began, right? This big drop that happened in the COVID crash here, right, was actually fake. And I don't know if you noticed, but it did take many months to recover. But after that sparked the biggest run ever. Okay, and I'm pretty sure when this dropped over here and came here, many were like, I'm out. I got an opportunity here. And after that was one of the biggest runs we've seen ever, right? And that was the response of that specific dump. Now we're about to go there. And I want to show you guys this over here. So what this is currently indicating on high time frame, let's go through a couple of plays. The first one is us here, rallying up here, and we are actually getting ready for more downside, maybe back to the 80s, may actually be back down to 60s, and then we look at something like this. Right, this is one of the truths you have to sit and accept. Right, you know me, it's hard to accept bearishness, but I have to, right? If I want to stay in the game, I have to start looking at the ideas of what that looks like. If that is so, okay, it is very important for us over the next couple of weeks to look at things that could indicate what a rejection here could look like and how could I catch it early, because that will be a good time, okay, to offload a little bit of bigger parts of the portfolio, not in the idea of just saving money, but to actually use it advantage to make many more coins. Because if we go here and then price does go down another 50%, by me selling off here and buying anywhere here, you know, I can probably increase my coin amount, okay, by 30 to 50%. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I've learned from the experience within this market, is when this market goes into bear territories, people focus on token quantity and not money value quantity, token quantity, right? If I can use this phase to increase the amount of Bitcoin that I have or amount of tokens that I have, right, that is me actually winning the fight. Because when prices go up again in the future, and again, I would not be doing a damn show here right now if I don't believe that Bitcoin will be worth hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars in the future. I think all of us still believe it. We're the last believers here, right? But then I'm quite interested. Okay, so the first play is that. We go here. What I'm looking at is to see the RSI. Okay, if I see us get here this week to next week, and we're sitting here, and this RSI is only here, then the option 2 comes into play. It was all a lie, right? It was all a trap. It is all there to completely flush the market out because, you know, again, alt isn't important to the markets. It's important for take profits and to get millions of people in crypto, right? Bitcoin's done so well, but has that increased that much amount of people in crypto? Not really. Altcoins do that, right? So for me, if the trap comes in and we see a fast movement over the next 2 weeks, there is something like this, right? And then we could possibly go into bear a little bit later. Okay, so when we get there, I'm kind of looking at how long does it take for us to get to these areas of 100 to 105,000. If we're there by the end of this week or by next week, right, we must be aware of this was a trap. Okay, this was a strong rally, a strong shakeout within the markets. And what I'd want to see is a breakthrough, retest the trend, and we go. I always spoke about what my idea was of where I thought Bitcoin was going to go. And my idea was Bitcoin was going to go anywhere to around the $180,000 to $200K for this cycle. I'm still very much in that boat, but again, uncharted territories now. No more guessing or predicting anymore. Okay, this needs to kind of happen for me to have that thought process again. Okay, so these 2 lines here give you a lot of structure, okay, of what can kind of happen and what can kind of change. For as long as we are sitting here, guys, it is telling us, don't be surprised if this market does this. Okay, it ranges for a while. Okay, because we have 2 simple lines. If we lose this bottom line, then it opens up another plan. If we break the top line, it opens up another plan, right? So how can I, in 2026, right, use this to become a millionaire, right? How can I also build myself 2 more plans that if this happens or this happens, I become a millionaire, right? And I can take these 3 scenarios here and just focus on how can I get damn rich on that happening, okay? Because there are so many tools and so many opportunities for that to happen. What you're doing is you are taking this problem that you have, or these things, and you're simplifying to 3 different scenarios and 3 different things of where to focus. Now the hard part comes, right? The dedication every day. This distracting ourselves is a big problem within a lot of humans' lives, right? If you can reduce the distraction and use that to build these 3 plans, I've given you 3 ideas of what can happen, okay? And each one of them have different plays. but each one of them have a solution to becoming rich. Because again, I met a guy recently that's made a lot of money in this current market, right? How he did it, and these things are things that we're going through, right? He actually got very good at accumulating and building tokens and doing these type of things, okay, and actually trading a very different narrative. Nonetheless, right, when you kind of remove everything and you just have these three simple things in, right, it gives you an ability to actually really research them and go through. Instead of watching 3 hours of TikTok and Insta every day, right, or Netflix and chill, right, do an hour Netflix and Instagram and do 2 hours of growth, or an hour of growth, does not matter, right? Learn to point those blinkers, learn to get dedicated, learn to go, right? Very, very, very important. Okay, so there are the plays over there on Bitcoin. Now let's go through Bitcoin dominance. This, for me, is still one of the most oversold tokens in the market. And I'm calling it a token because I'm just treating it like it's a damn token, right? I would be shorting this token a lot if I was an investor in this specific token, right? When something has been going up like this for so long, okay, and it loses a trend, you know me, right? You know me very much. Something loses a trend and retests it, I am bearish on this thing, right? Which still rarely gives me an understanding that alts are still the ultimate special within this market. And I'm talking good altcoins are specials in this market. And we mustn't be surprised if there is a lot of altcoin growth in 2026. This thing at some point needs to come down, needs to reset. And if we look at the RSI, you can see where the RSI is at too, right? It just started to exit this oversold position here, which means at any point it should start accelerating. Okay, so we can still have a bit of hope this year in our blood and in our veins, okay, that there is still hope for an altcoin rally, right? A strong, aggressive one too. Now let's jump to total 3, altcoins, okay? This is where I just want to explain my current strategies, right, of where we are right now. Now, this is an idea of what the market can happen, but ultimately, I explained this a few weeks back, and I'm going to explain it again. When the RSIs were like this, you see here when alts at the bottom here, it's a no-brainer, right? You need to think about not making money on your long-term portfolio, but looking at taking positions within your long-term, right? There's not a time to focus on banking money. It's about, this is where I'm going to make money, right? Now, a lot of times previously, I bought there, but what can I do over here, right? And I did that show and I said, guys, if I look at this now, where we're at, the RSI is doing something very similar, right, to what it did over here, where it sat here for multiple weeks and then we rallied up. This is when we had this on alts and then we actually ended up having a new break of the high, okay? And I said, here is an important thing for me to build low leverage grid bots, to build spot trades, low leverage entries, past bid funded challenges, right? Do whatever I can to take the longer term entry approaches, okay? And the bid funded challenges was something to like, if you can unlock a bunch of money, way more than what you have in these areas, and you can get the entries for the growth, right? You're learning how to make money a lot faster than what you're losing it, right? And again, I proved this method. I proved this method with my previous trades. Tomorrow, I'll open up all my trading accounts for you guys. We'll go through a little bit more short-term stuff. But I proved that you can lose 95% of your money, okay? And you can 400 times your initial position, not 400, 4 times your original position size in 60 days, right? I did it from losing here to 90% to then going to profits and actually multiple times of profits. So again, it just got me to understanding, obviously I want to lose less, I don't want to lose 90%, but it just shows me that my power of wins are way more stronger than my losses, right? And that's the same thing here. Oh, I lost so much on trading, okay? But then you buy 3 funded accounts, you get really good at understanding what funded accounts are, right? And all of a sudden you have hundreds of thousands of dollars to trade with and you catch the pump, right? You look and you're like, what the, I mean, profits in the market's only moved 20% and it's still down 60% of where it was previously. Okay, these are all the specific things. Then I said, when this next rally comes, because I do see Q1 being some strength. Why? Because of RSI. When things start to push up again, I'll be exiting the bots, exiting the spot trades. When I see a slowdown, I'll then start exiting the long-term position. But this is an idea of what can happen or what I'm strategically planning myself when it comes to altcoins. Now let's go through the scenarios, right? Now I'm going to clear this up. All my hard work. Say bye. Bye, hard work. Okay, cool. Cheers, hard work. Now let's go through the scenarios. We're fighting the same problem. So the first problem is we are still, not a problem, but the first good sign is this is a very good time to build investments. We're on support, right? Okay, that's good. The problem we're facing, okay, is we lost our trend. Okay, so again, we're kind of in the same play. So what's kind of indicating for me is we have just broken this trend. It's very likely also going to have a good, possible maybe month, 2-3 weeks, looks strong. Okay, but if we don't get through there, we are fighting that battle. Okay, if we decide to lose here, we have another battle to fight. Okay, so again, when it comes to alts, 2 simple lines give you an understanding that right now we are in the ranging phase. And the only thing that changes it is us breaking back into there or breaking down there. Those are the only things that change, which means that for as long as we want to complain or do anything like that, it's wasting time, it's wasting energy, except that we're in a ranging market. How can you become a millionaire in a ranging market? Right? These type of plays here. So again, what I do think is going to happen is I do think a bit of strength, but right now as it stands, something like this. Then possible reset and go. I do have a bullish scenario. Bullish scenario is we break above and we go. But I don't want to think too far just yet. So what can I do from here to take advantage of this move? When we get here, is there an opportunity for me to farm tokens? These are all things that we will move and use together as we go. As it comes down to the coins, right? I do have the scenario of ETH. I got 2 scenarios in ETH. The first one is what I just said. Alts go up. That's the one. The second one is it was a trap. And what is my hope for the trap is the Bitcoin dominance. I think the Bitcoin dominance is telling a story that none of us are really seeing. This is still very oversold. So if this drops anywhere here, even if Bitcoin stays at $90,000, right, altcoins will rip. Even if Bitcoin just stays between 90 and 100,000, and this drops this far, you'll be very surprised what happens to specifically blue chip altcoins. Okay, so going through them here, I do feel that a lot of them are in good accumulation zones. Okay, there is a scenario that we do push up to these areas over here. Time will tell, and we'll go. Now, let's go through a couple of short time frame views. Okay, I just want to go through a couple of things. This is what I think is going to happen short time frame, because I'm looking for my next trade. I'm sitting in a bunch of cash. I'm sitting in cash on my funded accounts. I'm sitting in cash on my trading accounts. Okay, I kind of look to take the weekend off before the shows on Monday and starting things again so I could be nice and recharged. Missed the pump. It's fine. I made some cash last week. But you can see I'm still in that mentality of not chasing, right? So here on Bitcoin, shorter time frame, zooming in, what I think the plays is, as it stands right now, okay, there's not a specific trade just yet. If we look here, there's short-term resistance at 94 and the next one's at 99. So there is a short squeeze. Okay, we just broke through this level here recently. So as it stands now, this is my idea of what's going to happen. Okay, and my longs are here. So if I wanted to trade today, I'm kind of looking at shorts, but the shorts are not confirmed. What does that mean? It means that if I see this and I'm saying, okay, we're coming to resistance, I'm looking at any coins and looking to find structure here to see if we lost a trend, where would I short this thing? Okay, but in the back of my head, I don't want to predict that it's going to come down because it could do this. Okay, and if it does that, I'd rather wait for the long. Okay, so what I'm doing is if we zoom in and go in on any tokens, let's just use a PEPE as example, right? These are alts that are moving aggressive. Okay, if I see, for example, this token now, okay, has been moving up, cool. I now zoom out and I'm like, okay, where is it? And I'm seeing, okay, I ain't going to chase this. There's resistance there. I buy support. Where's the supports we just broke through here? Okay, so either I wait for fresh new buys, okay, or I can look at the shorts. So here's the rejection point. Let's zoom in. Let's see where we're at. Okay, let's see if there's any good structure or understanding of where we're at right now. And if I take this trend from the bottom to where we are now, would I short this right now? No, I would not, right? But that's a very good trend line on when to short it, right? So now I'd be like, okay, there's no buys. My buys are waiting here for me to long the market, okay? So something like this, go up, boom, that's the short for the thing. If it decides to just, I'm not at my computer, it just drops, you got to wait for the long, right? But this is the opportunity to long, this is the short, but you don't want to predict that it's going to short. So this is why, again, or it's going to drop. This is why the trend is perfect. What I'm expecting here is hopefully a bounce, then something like this. That for me would be the option then to make some money to the downside. But realistically, it is telling us between Tuesday and Wednesday this week, there's some fresh longs in the market. Okay, now you can preserve your cash or you can use a little bit here within these areas over here. I will only short if I'm 100% happy with the short. My risk to reward is good. Okay, and I'll probably short around 20% of my capital. I'm actually starting to mentally prepare myself for the long, right? For that weekly high time frame move to where we're looking at. Okay, and to think. So as we go through, you can kind of just look at these over here. This token, I don't have much structure on shorts. Okay, but I know where I want to long this thing. All right, zoom out, go look at the big daily. It just broke out. So this comes here and then goes up. That's where I want to long it. Do I see a great short here? Not really. Okay, so I'm going to wait for the long if I want to buy this specific token. Right, as we go through the rest here, let's go look at something like Sol. Right, I look at Sol. Sol is flagged like it's straight into resistance right now. I ain't looking for any longs right now. Right, if I wanted to short this, I zoom in. I say, okay, let's find a really good trend. There's the trend. Right now, I ain't doing nothing. Right, but if this starts to push up and starts to break this a little bit later, there can be a good short. Push down, take profits at support, and continue and start moving up. Right, over here. Let's go through some more. There's AVAX. There's the trend. Right, so right now, I am bullish. I think till the end of midweek, I think there's a lot of longs. I think market's going to turn bullish. But as it stands the next 24 hours, I'm only trading what I'm 100% certain. I'd rather prep my mind for the longs, right? The longs. The next thing you can also pay attention to is obviously what category are you going to trade. So it looks like memes are hot, but also looks like if you get it wrong, it can hurt you, right? So memes, I'd be optimistic of trading memes, right? Where for me, it's like, ooh, PEPE is waking up, BONK's waking up. I'm going to look maybe at Solana, okay? Because it's a little bit slower and boring right now, but I don't lose as much when I get it wrong, right? And if I play it right, I can make money using the leverage skill, okay? But if there is an opportunity to catch these memes on a breakout, I need to make sure that the stop loss and the ratio is very small for me to do so. But it's interesting to know that memes are moving strong. These are where the big movers are, right? So these are all things that you can do right now to kind of look at what narratives are hot, what am I preparing for, what simple tools am I using, and that's it, right? Guys, that for me, tomorrow, lots. Probably 30 altcoins we're going through tomorrow. Tons of altcoins. All the memes, all of this, all of that. We will go through every single one of them. I see Fetch is moving. I see Render has been looking very strong. We'll go through all of them. Today is a mindset shift. It's to know that we're in uncharted territories. Whatever happened last year is done. Close the chapter, whatever. You're smarter, you're better, you're here, right? That's done, it's finished. This is what you were today. This is the structure. There are 3 versions of yourself you need to build and move on. 3 different setups. The market goes sideways, down, or up. We need to become millionaires, right? Lock in, dedicate, keep your head nice and strong, and show up every day. And I'll work as hard to do the exact same. Have a fantastic day. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.